Okay. There we go. Definitely still have a gravelly throat. So
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I'll be dealing with that a little bit. See the settings here.
StreamYard has lost access to my Facebook account. Did that happen last time?
There are some accounts that like eject, the settings after a while, and you have to redo it. Maybe Facebook
Let me do LinkedIn today. Okay, we're up. Hello, people.
Hey, everybody.
We're going to be on in about 2 minutes. Just doing the final. I was thinking I was in a Zoom room the other day for an event. I think people don't any longer need to say, "Oh, welcome. We're just going to wait a few more minutes till a few more people stream in."
It's
I know.
Like every
I know.
time.
You turn it on. We're going to wait a few minutes. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
Okay.
It's all right.
It's just part of the thing.
It's just like you don't have to tell me what Chatham House rule is anymore. I get it. I get it. I'm ready for you.
Yeah, it's true. Probably unnecessary. Let's see our post. Mastodon. So many social networks.
Yep.
Blue Sky. Do you do all of your social network wrangling by hand, or do you have like a
I do. I do. I should use.
So
Leo's been pushing me to use whatever that app. I keep on forgetting the name of it is. That's why I don't use it, because I can forget the name.
Oh, what is it? Does it tap into Blue Sky? Is it the one that taps
Yeah, it
into Blue
does.
Sky?
All of them. Yep.
God, what is that one called? Someone in chat will know, because I've heard of it too, and I just thought that it was iOS only. Tudo says microblog? No.
Microblog.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
I've never heard of microblog.
Leo
That's
likes
why
it a lot.
I
It's open.
immediately said no, but I obviously just
Post
Croissant
once.
is the one that I was thinking of.
Ah, okay.
But I think that is AI, or that is Apple iOS only. But microblog, okay.
Microblog's nice.
I'll have to look that up then. Gonna set myself a little note, otherwise it will never happen. Such is my life. Look up microblog, because I manage them all independently, and
It's the beauty of having Chrome, because you can cut and paste multiple 5 things.
the challenge though, and I don't think a tool like that helps, is that people's IDs are different everywhere, so you still have to kind of like slow down and do I have the right person tagged and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. That's the problem. That's a real problem.
Yeah.
But with Chrome, I can select the headline, the link of an image if I want to put that in there, and then I have one post, and then I can select that and go across, and then change the tags. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well. Okay. Well, it's 12, and we got plenty to discuss today. Let me see here. Make sure I'm in the right spot. Okay, sir. Let's see here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, I have one last thing. Sorry. I keep saying okay and then realizing I have one more thing to do before I can officially say okay. It's not okay time yet. Is that still the one that I'm sharing? No. Sorry. I am disorganized in this second.
No, Rob, I think using the same username is actually better, because then I don't have to change it when I want to refer to somebody. I am at Jeff Jarvis everywhere.
Oh, I wish. It's nice that because Jeff Jarvis, like, there's got to be other Jeff Jarvises.
Oh, there are. There's a talented jazz musician. There is a guy who runs we used to run Segway tours in Thailand. There is a doctor. These are all more important than I am, but my favorite is there is a Jeff Jarvis who is an Elvis impersonator.
That's right. I do remember hearing about that. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm able to get Jason Howell, I'd say about half the time, and then when I'm not, then it's that Jason Howell is what I end up doing. Almost there, promise.
Excuse me.
Okay. And okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to backstage you, and then we'll get this on the road. Here we go. Everybody stand by. Lots to discuss. Here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of AI Inside. This is a show where we take a look at the AI that is layered in a nice reality presented fashion in front of your eyes while you're wearing the proper hardware. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Howell, joined as always by my friend Jeff Jarvis. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey, how are you? Sorry, we're everybody out there. We're a day later, but it's going to be worth it because Jason has lots of things to report that were embargoed. Plus, he had a cold yesterday. And
yeah,
yucky. You don't want that. So
I swear, I had been looking forward to this morning, and we're going to talk about the news in a second. It's about Android XR and Gemini and all that. I had been looking forward to this morning for a little more than a week, and wouldn't you know it, it's like last weekend I got a stomach bug. And then yesterday I woke up with a really nasty cold. I was like, my body is trying to like take me down. It doesn't want this to work. It doesn't want me to stick the landing, but it all worked out. So yeah, we ended up postponing the show. It just wasn't going to happen yesterday. I wasn't feeling very well. And so thank you for your patience for being a day late. Thank you, Jeff, for you being so flexible to move it to today.
I'm officially retired. So what do I have to do?
No, okay. All right, cool. Well, I promise not to lean too heavily into that week after week. Before we get started, huge thank you to all of you who support us on Patreon, patreon.com/AI Inside Show, like BV Mir, who is one of our supporters. So BV, thank you so much. Thank you to those of you who I have not named specifically right now, but we do really appreciate you. Patreon.com/AI Inside Show. And if you happen to be watching live right now, a lot of you just watch live when it hits Twitter or whatever other platforms that we're streaming live to. You might not be subscribed. And if you're not, you should. AIinside.show. Go there, find all the details, and you won't miss a single episode, even if you happen to miss the live event. Okay, so what am I excited about in this moment? Well, let me tell you, Jeff, I saw some things and it was a lot of fun. I also felt kind of special because Google reached out to me and said, hey, we've got these prototype hardwares that we want to show you. If you come down to Mountain View, we'll show you the prototypes that are running our new effort called Android XR. So they invited me down to Mountain View, and I got to go down there and hang out with executives.
And let's stay there for a second. I think it's really great. This podcast is less than a year old, and you have relationships and expertise around Android. You've had a long time, but sure. I'm really delighted that you are influential. I don't want to call you an influencer because that's tacky, but you are influential, and they care about your opinion and trust you, and to be an independent journalist doing that. So I think it's really cool that you're on their list. So that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I think it's really cool too. I will admit I was kind of surprised, not because I haven't worked with Google before. Like with Android Faithful, we have a lot of interviews with different people from Google leading different efforts and everything. And so I think that is definitely part of it. But to realize that I was one of like 10 people that actually got to check out prototype hardware. Like, there were a couple of moments where I was feeling that imposter syndrome of like, why me? Like I'm honored, but I'm kind of surprised. And, at the end of the day, I'm a fan of all of this stuff as much as I am a journalist and a podcaster and everything. So it was a really cool opportunity for opportunity's sake. It was also just a lot of nerdy fun, like it felt like a roller coaster to me.
Yeah, that's cool. And, I think that the age of, this is what I write about all the time and everything I write, is the age of mass media is over. And it's about specialization and trust at a human level. And I was talking to an executive at another technology company, not Google, the other day. Was kind of, how do I get my message out at scale? I said, you don't anymore. You got to tie people together. I said, so for instance, you could support a whole bunch of really cool, good, trustworthy tech podcasts, and you'd be better off for it. And I think it's a smarter way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool stuff. Well, I was super excited to make the drive, even though on the way back from Mountain View, I got caught in like 3.5 hours worth of traffic. So that wasn't amazing, but it was what it was. But so what did Google actually show off? They were showing off Android XR, which is their platform for extended reality devices. It's really pertinent to this show specifically because they made a big deal about the fact that this is their first OS that they've created with Gemini at its core. So essentially building it around Gemini from the ground up. And you remember, I'm sure, the Google I/O keynote earlier this year. They showed off a little glimpse of Project Astra, which was the glasses with the see-through, camera and, interacting with the elements in the room and everything. It made a big splash at Google I/O. And that's kind of, that's a big key piece of what this is all about. This is Gemini running on these wearable devices, be it a VR form factor, be it a glasses form factor like Project Astra, and the camera being your eyes along with your eyes, and the microphone being your ears along with your ears, so that as you go through life wearing this hardware, it brings a lot of contextualization opportunities. It brings a lot of memory. If you forget something, it can remember this. And all of this stuff was really explored during the demos that I got.
Before you get into the demos, I'm just trying to set the architectural scene here in two ways. One is I wondered when you mentioned this, when I read your story about this, which you should plug by all means at Digital Trends, and whether the shift to the rumor of a shift from Chrome OS to Android for the next Chrome Pixelbook.
Okay.
And so just a rumor, we don't know, but I wonder whether this plays into that, whether Android being the key operating system and the key operating system that's tied to Gemini and AI makes Android now preeminent. Android XR being the pathway into the future OSs of Google. I just wondered about that. And then secondly, we've talked about how Google is working on things, and you're going to talk about it in a minute, where it could watch what you're doing on your screen and take that over and so on. And that's, tell me if I'm wrong here, that's built into Gemini more than Android XR, right? Those are changes that are done in Gemini.
Yeah,
so the two seem to come together, is what I'm saying, in a way that seems to be more strategic and fundamental than even what they demonstrated.
Taking the Gemini layer and putting it into all of these other places to bring that capability that Gemini has into those other experiences. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And through Android XR, right?
And through Android XR, exactly. I mean, obviously we follow Gemini and these voice assistants and LLMs and all this stuff on the show a lot. I've also kind of been a pretty casual fan of virtual reality and environments like that and augmented reality and stuff. And I've often felt that the chocolate peanut butter moment is when you take the context and kind of capabilities of these artificial intelligence systems and you put them into a virtualized environment. That's when things start to really sing. And
right. And it doesn't have to come from glasses and a camera and glasses. It can come from what you're doing on your screen. It can come from what it hears. It can come from what you say. It can come from things you've saved. We've talked about saving screenshots and doing that kind of stuff. So it can gain that context and then act on it in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
Multimodal indeed.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we talk also a lot about multimodality, and from a kind of like an informational standpoint, that's definitely here. The Gemini is looking at everything you're looking at. There was one point at which I switched on eye tracking in the Project Moohan, which is Samsung's VR headset. I could activate eye tracking, so it would. After a short configuration, the cursor on the screen would actually follow wherever my eye was looking. It was very accurate. And then I could click with my hands just sitting in my lap or whatever. But you have the ability as a user to tell the system whether it shares that information or considers that information with Gemini or not, because that's kind of like an ethical kind of area. Is like, okay, well, now it knows what you're looking at. And that used to seem like only the thing that we know. And now technology knows how to follow that too.
Yeah,
and so do you feel okay with Gemini knowing so much about what you're facing and what that says
and where you are
and
too.
everything, and where you are and like all that stuff? It gets really interesting.
So I interrupted you. Talk about what you saw.
No, I mean, there was so much as part of the demo. I think the Project Astra demo was really impressive because of the kind of memory aspect was one thing that really stood out to me. There was a portion where I was looking at a shelf of liquor bottles, and, I looked at it and I was like, hey, what can I make with these? And I tried to be very generic and force it to kind of identify things. So I tried not to say like, what can you make with these liquor bottles? But more like, take a look at this table and tell me what you can make here. And it would tell me, give me a recipe. Do I need to make that neat or on the rocks or whatever? And then I went on with my demo. And then I asked it, hey, back at the liquor, back when I was with the bottles, there was a book sitting next to it. What's the name of that book? And it knew the name of the book, so it had that memory. There was a point where I was talking with someone who was in there talking to me in Spanish, and I was making eye contact with her. But because I had the glasses, my right eye was seeing through the Raxium display, so I was seeing the translation in real time while still making eye contact with her. So that was kind of.
Which device were you wearing then?
That was the Project Astra. This is right now. This is all Project Astra. Yeah, I had it identify a painting and ask questions about that. There was a sign on the wall that was in a foreign language. I asked it to translate that into English, and then I asked it to translate that into Japanese. There was a record, so I picked up the record and I said, hey, I've never heard this record before. Can you play me a track? And it immediately knew to go to YouTube Music and pull up a track from the album and play it in the stereo speakers.
I'm still a little confused though. Were you wearing Moohan? Were you wearing the black glasses? What were you wearing?
Still wearing the black glasses.
The black glasses.
I think the glasses is essentially the Project Astra, or maybe Project Astra is a component of the glasses, but they didn't really give me a name for the glasses.
That was very prototypey. That was not a brand yet or a manufacturer yet.
No brand labeling. I saw a pair of the glasses that was monocular, so a single display, and then one that was binocular, so it had a display in each eye, so it had that kind of three-dimensionality. And then they had a version of the glasses that was transparent, so you could see all the technology and you could see the little display inside and the light guide and how it all worked. I'm like, you need to sell that one. Nerds would love that one. Yeah. Totally.
So you and I share the same PTSD, though I think mine is worse because I spent more on it, having been veterans of Google Glass.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jeff. What are you talking about? What can you possibly
I'm so stupid. I got prescription lenses in mine.
You're not stupid. The thing that I really couple of things. Thing that I realized here is that Google was really ahead of its time. It was ahead of its time with Google Glass. The world was different 10 or so years ago when Google Glass first came
phenomenal. How early they were, right?
People were freaked out about the ever-present camera and the ingestation or whatever you want to call it of information through the camera. And how do I know if you're taking a picture and all that? Times have changed. People are far less skittish about that now. There's that. And then there's also the fact that Google Glass and a lot of what I saw with the Project Astra demo are really very much the same. It's just, this is just a frame with a little and by this I mean Google Glass is just a frame with a little crystal that has the display up here. And the Project Astra frames had a little display that put very similar information. Like I had maps streaming to it. It was like a directions, and if I kind of tilted my head slightly down, it faded into this top-down view of the immediate area on a map, and so I could see that I'm turning up ahead. And, you can kind of envision just like walking down the street and, that's where I'm going. You turn down and look and you see where you're going.
So it really felt reminiscent of the technology, but better than Google Glass.
For sure, because now it can do so much more. But, even with Google Glass, we were querying it with voice commands and and things like that,
and fingers.
Taking
All right, so how much is there?
Fingers and,
There's voice commands with this
for sure.
Is there finger stuff too?
You can. I noticed that it did a really good job of knowing when I was talking to someone else and not it, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Also rejecting other people. I was like, how come you guys are talking to me and it doesn't think that you're talking to it? And they've done a lot of work in denoising algorithms and everything to know, where that audio is coming from. But you can pause it. You can tap on the side of the frames. There's also a couple of other buttons there that do different things. So
in looking at the brief demo that's online, as a New Yorker, we get upset with tourists who go slow and people on their phones who slow down to start typing on their phones. And then almost walk into traffic and get killed,
right.
Right? So how does this, you think, affect your relationship with the outside world when you're interacting with it?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I do wonder about that. Like when the person was there, so I had kind of like my media handler during this demo, and she was kind of walking me around. Okay, and here's a painting, and blah 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 blah. And I'm trying to like listen to her. Meanwhile, there were some misfires where Gemini's also talking in my ear at the same time that she's talking to me, and so I had to kind of like maneuver that. So that was a little
being rude to the human.
Yeah, totally. Even though she, she's on the team, she's totally used to it. She understands, but trying to think about it in the real world. And then the woman that was talking to me in Spanish and that it was translating, even though I'm looking at that person or at you while it's translating, I know in my mind that I'm reading something. So it's not, I'm not purely connecting with the person. I am still looking at a layer between me. And so there is some disconnect there. And I don't know how that's going to interplay when you're out and about. Certainly there's not something showing on the screen at all times. It does fade out at a certain point. If you're not using it or if you haven't queried or whatever. So it's not like you always have that screen there kind of separating you from the world, but it's definitely a consideration.
What scared me about it was the thought of people wearing this while they're driving. Because you're here or you're there, right? I thought idiots will do this, but it would be neat if you could transfer this to a heads-up display in your Android Auto or something like that, where you could still interact, but not here.
Or, Google knows when you're in a car and you're moving, although it doesn't know if you're a passenger versus a driver.
Right.
But maybe there's some, this isn't a feature, by the way. This is just thinking about what could be. But, maybe there's some feature to detect that and know to switch to an audio-only version versus a screen, a heads-up version, something along those lines. Because, All
right, so there was that. There was Astra through those glasses. There was Moohan, and then there was all the announcements about Gemini.
Yeah. So those came.
I want to hear about all those. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so the Gemini announcements came one day earlier, and of course, for anyone watching or reading through the announcements, there is some overlap here. Of course, Gemini 2.0 does tie into the XR announcement, at least as far as Project Astra is concerned. The 2.0 update improved the latency, which I actually found the latency to still be a little too pausey in the conversation. So hopefully they continue to work on that. But improved memory, taps into search, lens, maps, all things that I experienced personally, improved dialogue, that sort of stuff. But so that was part of what I saw when I was down there. But then there's also a bunch of other news related to Gemini 2.0, 2.0 Flash, just kind of a faster, more capable version of 2.0 Flash, or of Gemini Flash. And then the rest of them, I think, are all agents related, agentic.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how they announced this as our new AI model for the agentic era, which also says that Google has decided on agentic, not agentive. So we're headed there.
Solid.
But I was trying to figure out what exactly that meant.
How
agentic it is, right? So they showed unlocking agentic experiences with it, and they included Astra with that. but I was trying to figure out how it's agentic. Do you have any sense of that?
Astra,
it can help you play a game. It can give you tips.
Yeah, so
and
there's
things like that. That's one.
Right, totally. When I think of Astra, I don't automatically think of agentic necessarily. I think of it as being
right.
Kind of serving the questions and interactions that I'm looking for. I think some of the agentic features, even games, I don't know that I think about that as agentic, because even though they're saying I see. In addition to exploring agentic capabilities in the virtual world, we're experimenting with agents that can help in the physical world. So how do you define agentic then, I think, is my question to Google.
Yeah,
because
it does
when
a
I think
task
of agent,
for you.
Yeah, when I think of agent, I think of it does a task for you. Is a task answering a question? Or is a task
I see. Right.
actually tweaking a setting in my computer when I want it to, turn me into turn it into dark mode, as you recoil. Project Mariner was another one of their announcements, which is an experimental Chrome extension that is basically an agent for the browser that I could see
and that ties into the stuff
task.
Right. We talked about earlier is when we heard rumors or reports that Google, like Microsoft, was going to look at your browser and act off the context of your browser. I think that's Mariner, isn't it?
I believe so.
That's what came out with here.
That's what I'm led to understand based on what little they shared about Mariner. Where is it? Yeah.
So it's meant to do tasks for you. So I signed up for the early thing. And what kind of task do you want to do? I don't know. What can you do?
Yes.
But I think, making scheduling that shows you with a spreadsheet, and you can have it do tasks there. So it's also a little bit like a co-pilot and having you do something. This is all mushing in
for sure
together here in interesting ways, which is okay, because better that it knows the language we speak rather than the language Google wants us to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fair question though. I wouldn't immediately say, "Oh, Project Astra, that's agentic AI," based on my kind of current kind of feeling or knowledge or understanding of what agentic means in AI. But maybe it is, because I'm asking it to translate something and it's translating it. So is that an agentic action?
Well, okay, so let's be generous here. I think you're right, Jason. If you're walking down the street and it knows you want to go somewhere, then it is your agent tipping you off about where to go. Or, right, and it says, well, you want to turn right at the next street. Is that an agent? Not in the way I thought of it, but I guess.
No, me too.
In the way you just described it, yeah, it could be, because it's your little helpmate saying, hello, idiot, turn right.
But then along those lines, how is it not agentic if I go to ChatGPT and I say, rewrite this sentence for me? That's agentic because it's carrying out an action. At that point, everything seems agentic because it's all carrying out actions.
And it's the hot word right now, so they're all going to try to call it agentic. So we're dubious.
Oh no, that's where we're at. The lines are going to get blurred.
Does its awareness of the context matters? Because I know what you're doing, I can help you in a way. Is that
maybe
agentic?
So? That could, maybe that's the differentiation. I'm not entirely sure. It's a great question. I hadn't really considered that, but that's true. When I saw Google's blog post, I kind of had the same reaction initially. And then as I read down, I was like, oh, here's a couple of things that I would think of as agentic. The Mariner, or the Chrome extension kind of falls into the bucket that I would consider. They also talk about Jules, which is agents to assist developers. So, you could send AI code agent to integrate into the GitHub workflow. So you put in a piece of code, it knows kind of where it goes and how to use that sort of stuff. But I don't know. It kind of seems like a terminology that's getting a little mushy and gooey and pliable.
Well, the other thing that's in here is, as part of Astra, the announcement, which you talked about earlier, is better memory, is remembering things that you see. Is that agentic? Because it can call on things for you. You can say, hey, remember that thing you saw back there? Do this with it. Mm-hmm. I guess that's agentic.
Okay.
But the presumption about agentic is make an airline reservation for me.
Yeah. Right.
Do a task that I otherwise order dinner for me. Well, okay, but what do you want? So it's like husband and wife. Whatever you want. No, tell me what you want.
And then you get it. I didn't want that. No.
Right. Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah. I didn't want that, agent. Jeez, you should have known me better than that.
Well, just your agent. In other words, your agent is your spouse. Your agent is your backseat driver. Your agent is your judge. So they also mentioned Jules for developers.
Right.
And since I'm not a developer, I don't really understand all this. But I think that that's obviously a hot piece here in all of this is helping developers, and it's what they understand.
Continues to be.
So tell me about Wuhan.
The Wuhan.
Yeah.
Well, Wuhan was really just the VR aspect.
That's all
of
it
this
is.
all.
Just
so
like Apple's.
It was, well, I personally have not tried Apple Vision Pro, so I can't compare it specifically to that. But, it had a lot of similarities in the Gemini aspects of it, with the pass-through camera. I think the thing that really struck me about Wuhan was that I'm used to when I go into a VR environment with a pass-through camera. I'm used to the pass-through camera looking like a potato compared to reality. And in this case, things looked a lot like very sharp. Not a perfect representation of, the reality through the camera, but closer than I've ever seen and very, very convincing.
Close enough also that you could walk around a building and not kill yourself?
That was exactly it. At no time did I feel like the scale or anything or
that you were isolated from the world.
Yeah. And part of that also is that the bottom of the goggles actually do let through not only light, but they let through part of the room. And you can block that if you choose to get fully.
Hey, there's a snare there. Right. Yeah.
Or you can let it through. And actually, if you're doing AR kind of stuff, letting it through kind of lends to more of the illusion, because now, like the way I liken it is, how people have their TV set and then they put LEDs on the back of the TV set to splash on the wall with the colors of the TV, so it makes it more immersive. Have you seen that trend?
No, I never have seen that. No.
Well, it's a trend that, people have been doing for a while to kind of like broaden the perceivable size of the information on the TV. And this is kind of like that. It lets in more of the room. And so it kind of gives you, your peripheral view, a sense that what you're seeing actually does exist in the real world. And then there's the visual acuity of the information. The digital virtual information was very high resolution to my eyes. It looked really sharp. And so they blended really well. And so that was pretty impressive.
And so clearly with the VR glasses, you can also do a lot more because you can have your computer screen and media and other things presented to you. So that's the real difference.
For sure. That's certainly one of the advantages. The displays that I was working with, and by display, I mean like, Chrome browsers. I had a whole row of Chrome browsers, which I could say to Gemini, hey, clean up my view, and it'll like sort them for you and everything. But anyways, those individual displays look like I've got this giant 4K display in front of me in real life right now, and they look like that. They weren't like mushy or kind of hard to see or whatever. It really was high resolution. There was a standing desk area that I went to at one point.
Oh, of
course.
It
had a Bluetooth keyboard and a Bluetooth mouse. So the multimodality of control, I could just wiggle the mouse, and now I'm in mouse mode. And I have my display in front of me, and I could be whatever. I could have multiple displays if I want to, and they're all high resolution, and it was kind of neat. Like I would,
and if you're a touch
curious
typist, you can
to
type.
work like that. Absolutely,
you can type.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because you got your Bluetooth keyboard. So, yeah, and then all the apps that they showed off: photos, maps, Google TV, Play movies. All kind of demonstrated how this virtualized environment, how they've tweaked their apps to work inside of the virtual environment, their kind of capabilities around spatializing 2D footage. And so if you have your photos library, this is actually really cool, Jeff. If you have your photos library, every single photo and video that you've ever taken can be spatialized. And so then suddenly you view it in your VR headset, and it's in 3 dimensions, even the videos. And so it's all done through their AI algorithms, and I didn't see the process. I don't know how long it takes to do this or what the process is there, but I saw, of course, their hand-picked versions of this being done. And you just simply wouldn't know that it hadn't been created like that to begin with. It was really remarkable.
How are we going to know anything's real, Jason?
Now you're standing in the middle of the room. I was in the middle in Maps. I ended up walking. You know how some establishments have a street view thing that you can go into an actual building. And I did, and they had a restaurant in downtown New York that had been shot by street view cameras years ago, totally flat footage, and they had spatialized it in AI. And sure enough, I'm standing in the middle of this restaurant. I'm like, wait, this wasn't shot in 3D? Are you kidding me?
Wow.
Like, it was crazy. And I'm looking around, and I was just in the middle of this restaurant. It was really cool.
You know, we were talking about this on Twig last night. I said, if only they didn't give us all this AGI BS, we'd be amazed at each one of these steps.
Yeah, right.
This is all really pretty cool, but does it think? No, but it's not going to. It's amazing on its own. So that's cool. Yeah. So it sounds like it was a really cool trip. Even with the 3 hours traffic.
And it's all right. It was worth it. As a technology nerd and fan, it was a lot of fun. You know, also kind of knowing that I was seeing something that not a lot of people were seeing. That felt nice. Yep. Walking into all the rooms with the executives, like, "Hello, Jason." You know, it's like, oh,
yes,
I feel so special right now. It was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. Anyways, it was awesome. So, people can check out my article on digital trends. I'm now a contributor to digital trends,
which
actually.
Is cool.
So I'll be writing
that's great.
more for them.
And your video.
I also put up a whole video. It's a whole hour and 10 minutes of me talking about everything from this experience. So
because Jason
could not, on your hands.
Important to say, Jason was not allowed to shoot images or video there.
No. I was not allowed to shoot any footage. I recorded audio simply because I wanted to remember things, and I knew I'd lose detail if I didn't, and they were fine with that. And so I just kind of recount the whole thing. So
did you feed it into Notebook LM and have it make its own podcast?
I did not use it to make a podcast, but I did use Notebook LM in the last handful of days to check my work, to help me check facts, you know, and I've realized Notebook LM is really, a strong tool for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Here's my data set. Here's the thing I'm working on. Have I said anything here that's counter to what's in the data set?
Right. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
And it's not, I don't think we put it in the rundown, but just as a note, the top 3 product people at Notebook LM have left Google.
I saw that.
To work on something related, obviously related. And so it'll be interesting to see the competition between Notebook LM and whatever their startup comes up with. I think it's a really exciting field.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, we're cool. We made something cool. Let's go do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
That'll keep happening. There's so much happening in this space, and that gives us plenty to talk about.
Well, good work, Jason.
Thank you for the wonderful questions around that. We're going to take a super quick break. We've got a lot more to talk about. Not only did Google have, kind of an onslaught of new stuff, but so did OpenAI, and continues to. That's coming up in a second. All right, so OpenAI has been celebrating, I'll put that in air quotes, celebrating the 12 days of Shipmas, and released a bunch of new stuff in a short amount of time. I think top of that list is probably the fact that they now have a $200 a month tier of ChatGPT.
Well, thanks a lot, Santa.
Everything.
Yeah,
that's a real great gift under the tree. Called ChatGPT Pro, $200 a month for unlimited O1 access, O1 Pro mode. You better get a lot of perks for $200 a month.
Yeah, and I keep on the business model of all this just keeps on smelling like cheese to me, because there's so much that's available for free. Out there, and the increments of what's included in free keep moving along, and so they're tripping over themselves to try to make that value for consumer revenue. It's going to be hard, I think.
Yeah,
I'm not spending $200. Neither of us is spending $200 a month unless we get a lot of new members, folks. A lot of new members, and we'll join.
We can only afford to do that if we're making enough that $200 a month doesn't seem like, we're burning through it all. So that makes me wonder, so then who is doing $200 a month for ChatGPT Pro? Like, I wonder what the kind of ideal.
It's like the Wall Street Journal. If you got an expense account and you go to I'm the AI guy at Company X, and you say, well, I have to know all this, don't I? And the company may not yet be buying an enterprise license, But should your AI people be doing this? Yeah.
That's a good point.
And thank you, Ozone Nightmare. Joe just gave us our first contribution toward ChatGPT Pro. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. We are $190 away from 1 month of ChatGPT Pro.
For one of us.
We actually saw the Ozone Nightmare at your book signing.
Yes, it was wonderful to see you, Joe. Thank you.
Great to see you, Joe.
And thank you for coming in, Jason.
Yeah, of course. It was a lot of fun. I was really stoked to be there. And it was actually also totally a tangent, but it was also cool because so many of the themes that we talk about on this show and everything, came up. It shows me how complementary your writing of the book and these topics.
That's why I value this show, because it's what enables me to keep researching this stuff and trying to stay up on it. So every week I got to go through all the AI stuff I can find to see what's happening. Right. So that's helpful. Makes it seem like we're up to it, huh?
Totally.
So $200 a month for the Mondo one, and then just to list them first, and we'll go through them. Is Sora, Canvas Open, and OpenAI 01 and Apple, and then today, day 6, was Advanced Voice Video and Santa Mode.
So I missed that one because I've had a really busy morning.
I just put it in there. I just watched it. Yeah. So where do you want to start?
Oh boy, I don't even know on this one. I mean, well, so there was O1 lying a lot. You had put in a couple of articles about O1's lies. It's lies, damn it. What is it? What's going on there?
It's fascinating, and I'm going to tie this for a second into Google's announcement about its quantum chip. Because it has Willow. It has a whole new chip, and Google's stock went way up. Everybody was happy about this new quantum chip. That quantum might be real. And what was interesting about this to me is, and I'm trying to get my head around this, but to me, computing was always an exact science. There was a question and you had an answer. You had a calculation and you got the answer, and that was that. And I remember years ago, one Intel chip had something wrong with it, that certain kinds of calculations wouldn't be right, and that was shocking. Right? Well, in neural networks and generative AI and AI around, it's more approximate. And in quantum, it's more approximate. It's about is there enough to push the balance of prediction to say that this is a useful response, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm fascinated by that question. So we talk about hallucinations. One of the Google's thing was the more qubits or whatever the hell they call it they put in there, the error rate went down in quantum. So here in generative AI, it's fascinating to me is what we call hallucinations, which is crap. And neither is it really errors. It's just things that don't match our expectation of the right prediction. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And if it's going to keep doing that, it's not useful in many, many contexts. So O1 is accused of lying more, but that means that they're not getting right what we think it should be getting in the context of its task, which makes it less useful. So there was a lot of kind of accusation around that in this week, as people have played more and more with O1.
You know what just kind of came to mind. I'm probably not the first person by any means to draw this connection, but as you were talking about kind of, the hallucination aspect of AI and how we're kind of, some people are kind of getting used to the idea that something like that cannot and will not be perfect and correct and accurate and factual and truthful 100% of the time. And then you've got quantum computing and Google's announcement there, and that being kind of playing in the same field. It's like, yeah, but it's still doing amazing things. It's just, it's not always accurate. All of that combined with this moment in time that we live in, when fact as a thing it has become so mushy and so kind of abstract at this point that it's just interesting that these things are all coexisting at the same time. It's like the perfect technology for a moment in time when facts matter less to people than they ever have.
Or it's the worst technology for this moment in time, because if it's good enough for OpenAI and quantum, it's good enough for me. It's truly the age of alternative facts.
Yeah, totally. And it's like the technology is up to the challenge.
right.
Of that.
So we have Sora. And Google also has VO, which is its fairly recently announced latest version of its video. Some creators leaked Sora. That peeved OpenAI for a few days, and they took it down. But now it's going to be available in general. And The Guardian had a moral panic piece about we'll never know what reality is. But of course, the same was true with photography and with sound on film. And
that article keeps getting written. That's one of those things that authors keep thinking like they're the first person to come up with the fact that like, oh, well, if this is doing this, then we can never believe anything ever again. It's like, It's kind of been that way for a long time. And I don't know, maybe I have my head in the sand, but nothing major has happened as a result of it yet. I'm not saying that it won't. Like, I guess the potential is there, but I don't know. I keep seeing that article, and the more I see it,
again and again and again and again and again. Yeah.
Okay. It's just the way.
So Sora was one. Canvas is now going to be available, I think, in general on ChatGPT, and it's a creation tool both for writing and for coding.
Yeah.
So it's just a more focused use of the chat interface to do what a lot of people are doing with it.
I think I'm actually super curious to play around with Canvas because it really does seem like, in my experience of using, these systems, Perplexity and ChatGPT and everything, it's so locked into that singular kind of top-down, always scrolling interface. And what am I actually using these for? Well, I'm kind of collaborating with them to pull out information that I can use in, like, say this thing that I'm writing or this structured kind of document. And to have that kind of tools like that embedded into the place where I structure the document kind of seems like a powerful tool set. So I'm curious.
So insert something here, do something there. I think that's really useful and more interactive, more collaborative. So I think that really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then so they're going to add Open O1 onto Apple, which is really, I think, Apple confessing they don't have a lot of AI.
Yeah, well, and we knew that ChatGPT was going to be part of Apple Intelligence and that it was going to come a little bit later. So now we're kind of at that stage to where that's going to start happening. Yeah, it is curious to see, okay, well, what is Apple's own internal play around AI outside of, Siri kind of having some of the impacts and the capabilities that the AI affords, but really leaning on ChatGPT, like you said, shows that they don't have their own version of that. And should they? Or maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they just are a different company versus a lot of the others that are doing this sort of thing.
So Sundar Pichai has been having a good, fun time mocking Microsoft because, well, they don't really have their own AI. They got to use OpenAI. But we have DeepMind. We are Google. It gives them the same opening with Apple. Like, well, they don't really have it. They've got to use OpenAI. But of course, in both cases, they're using OpenAI, not Google, which is interesting, right?
That's true.
And Amazon, its stock went up a week ago because it's adding more models. The competition here is amazing. But you and I say this all the time. In a way, there's just tremendous competition, but in a way, it's all a little bit the same.
Yep.
They're just leapfrogging with little baby steps along the way, which is interesting. Yeah. So if you go to, line 28 here, the video, you'll get the latest. So what's happening with 12 days of Shipmas is that they are...
SHIP, as in Paul.
Shipmas.
As I heard you say that, I was like, it could have been a different word.
The AI would then, go after me. So this is what you're going to see here is, as the first video there, where you were talking about...
Will we need audio? We will need audio?
Yeah, you'll need audio if you can.
Okay, let me get that going because that is a different
While
process.
You're doing it, I'll talk about it. So the memory things that Jason talked about with... I'm talking like Jason isn't here because he's busy doing something. That you, Jason, talked about with Google is an important part. It's antecedent. Get me that book. Get me that record. What about this? What about that? And knowing what that is. So you're going to see a demo here if you go about a minute in, where it's advanced voice. So now the advanced voice, which is very, very, very chatty to a weird degree, will now combine with video so that you can talk about things that you're seeing with it. This is very much like what Jason saw at Google.
Okay,
so if you advance to a minute,
you said.
Yeah, what you're going to see is the.
Give this one more try.
So he's going to introduce the people around have the people around the table introduce themselves.
There we go. All right. So you can see as we go into there's now a couple more buttons on the bottom left. In particular, there's this video button. And so here we are. And I'm going to introduce myself. Hey, Chat. I'm Kevin. I lead product at OpenAI.
Hey, Chad. Okay.
Hi, Kevin.
Yeah,
it's great to meet you.
Their nickname.
What can I help you with today?
Well, I'd love to introduce you to a few of my colleagues. Does that sound good?
Sure, I'd love to meet them.
No, I really don't want to. I just like you.
I'm Michelle, and I'm an engineer on the ChatGPT multimodal team.
And these antlers are
Hi,
not
Michelle.
real.
It's nice to meet you. An engineer on the ChatGPT multimodal team? That sounds exciting.
And Chat has to find something nice to say in each case.
I'm Jackie,
Yeah.
and
I
I'm
know,
the
right?
product
It's like,
lead for
okay.
ChatGPT multimodal.
Get through the niceties.
Hi, Jackie. It's great to meet you too. Sounds like you're all working on some really cool projects.
We really are.
Projects.
Hey, ChatGPT, I'm Rowan.
This
I'm a
guy
researcher
didn't get the
here at
memo about
OpenAI
calling
on
it Chat.
multimodal.
Hi, Rowan. It's nice to meet you.
He's embarrassed.
Multimodal research sounds fascinating.
Okay, so now comes the demo.
All right. And now I want to see if you remember the folks that you met. So can I give you a quick quiz?
Sure, I'm ready for a quiz.
All right. What was the name of my colleague that was wearing the reindeer antlers?
That would be Michelle.
All right. And how about the name of my colleague that was wearing the Santa hat?
That would be Rowan.
All right. Good work. You're 2 for 2. You get an A. Thanks, Chat.
Good job, Chat. Was there more,
So,
or was that it?
That's enough. Well, you can watch.
Okay.
You can have it imitate Santa if you want later on. That may be worth a laugh. Maybe we should do that in a minute. But what's interesting here is, if it's a good demo, if we know it's a good demo, right? It has memory.
Yep.
It remembers there was someone who wore antlers. B, it knows what antlers are, and that they don't belong in a human being except an AI. C, it then remembered the name of that person. It had data about that person that it had stored. So this whole question of memory in your demos and here strike me, it's the leapfrogging baby steps, right? They're both demonstrating video memory of things, which is interesting. So now,
Yeah, and yet as I watch this and as I think about the demonstration that I saw in person, I could see this being the kind of thing that, in a very short amount of time, 6 months or whatever, we're kind of like, okay, yeah, memory.
okay, yeah, enough of that.
So what? Like, what is the next? Remember, like, days ago versus minutes ago. Maybe that ends up being the big deal. And I suppose we'll only really experience that when we have these things for days and not minutes. But
So the other thing about this, which goes to Google Glass in the old days, Google Glass's one good thing was going to be to tell a boiler repair person how to repair the boiler. What are you seeing?
right.
So in their demonstration, if you go ahead to about 4 minutes,
Same video.
same video, Chat is instructing the embarrassed guy how to make a cup of coffee
Okay.
by seeing.
I'm going to fire up a new conversation with
I'll show it.
ChatGPT
Yeah, sure.
and hit the advanced voice mode icon on the lower right.
There's a
then
coffee
once it connects-
maker right out there.
I'll share my video. Hey, Chat, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I see you're wearing a Santa hat.
I am, and do
getting
you
it?
see what I have in front of me?
Yes, I see a coffee setup with a kettle and a dripper. Are you planning to make some coffee?
I'd love to. Do you think you could walk me through the steps?
Sure, I'd love to. First, place a filter in the dripper and
Okay,
rinse
so
it
you
with
get the
hot
idea.
water to eliminate any papery taste.
Right.
This also
So now finally, if you advance to 7 minutes, 40 seconds, you'll get Santa.
warms up the
Okay, 7 minutes, 40 seconds. I just had to mute it so that it doesn't blip all around the place. All right, here
Like
we go.
icon. That's going to be your festive entry point.
Snowflake
Little
You can
icon.
also find and select Santa in the ChatGPT
They are so
settings page.
festive at OpenAI.
All right, let's say hi to Santa.
I'm a little scared, a little nervous.
Yep.
Hey, Santa.
Ho, ho, ho! Well, hello there. It's delightful to hear from you. Are you getting excited for the holidays?
I'm so excited. Santa, I have a question
That's
for
not
you.
bad.
What's your favorite Christmas tradition?
What a wonderful question.
Okay.
My favorite.
Oh, but if my kids were just a couple of years younger than they are right now, they'd probably really love that.
But watch. I guarantee you, within a week, there'll be a story that OpenAI's
Yes.
AI Santa told kids to kill their parents. Right?
Can you believe?
Right. We're gonna be there.
Interesting. So there's more shipmas days left. So who knows what OpenAI has in store?
Today is day 6 of 12.
6 of 12. Man, who knew December was just going to be so jam-packed with AI announcements? They're like, we got to get it out the door before the new year. There must be some sort of like tax thing that they got to get this stuff out.
Or their bonuses.
Yes, that's right.
Their KPIs, as they say. Yes.
We're going to take a super quick break. We've already talked about the quantum stuff, so we can probably pass that off.
Mention it briefly, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about the quantum and then a little bit about Reddit and then round things out. That's coming up after this break. All right, we did kind of mention the quantum computer thing.
Yeah, I screwed up.
Willow.
I didn't see it was in the rundown below. I forgot.
No.
I don't have the memory of these programs.
What I realized in kind of prepping for this story is every time a quantum computer story comes up, I have to remind myself what it actually means.
I know.
But I think you did a pretty good job of explaining it earlier.
Well, so the one thing just to mention, I think, if I can find it in here really quickly, is the statistic that has been out there a fair amount of how, I'm trying to avoid the word powerful, but how speedy, I guess, this thing is, that it can do a standard benchmark computation in under 5 minutes that would take one of today's fastest supercomputers 10 septillion, that is 10 to the 25th years, a number that vastly exceeds the age of the universe.
Yeah.
So this is what got people excited. And I think for this show, what's important is imagine what this can do with AI. Is it a complete rethink of neural network architecture? I don't know. But the need for tremendous computing power and speed in AI, if quantum really does arrive, one can imagine that it's more than baby steps then.
Yeah,
is it AGI? No, I don't think it still is.
I was just going to say, you know what we'll have then, Jeff? We'll definitely have AGI by then. But I mean, who knows? I mean, the whole quantum aspect of this just takes everything to a completely different level that, again, I have a hard time understanding. But I will say that New York Times Cade Metz did a good job of kind of breaking it down again. So I'll just read that for anyone else out there who's like, okay, but seriously, this is such an elusive term to me. Quantum bits, this is his words, or qubits behave very differently from normal bits. A single object can behave like two separate objects at the same time when it is either extremely small or extremely cold. By harnessing that behavior, scientists can build a qubit that holds a combination of ones and zeros. This means that 2 qubits can hold 4 values at once, and as the number of qubits grows, a quantum computer becomes exponentially more powerful. Does that tell you everything you need to know about quantum computers? Probably not, but that gives me understanding the binary of 0 and 1 and the importance of it in modern computing. Right. That tells me something, that exponential kind of
and the other part of this that goes to this error question is that in my amateurish way, I would think, well, if quantum is approximate and has errors, then the more you have, the more errors you have. No, it's the opposite. So the Google team published in Nature results showing that, I'm quoting, the more qubits we use in Willow, their chip, the more we reduce errors and the more quantum the system becomes. We tested ever larger arrays of physical qubits, scaling from a grid of 3 by 3 encoded qubits to a grid of 5 by 5 to a grid of 7 by 7. And each time, using our latest advances in quantum error correction, we were able to cut the error rate in half. So the more quantum it is, the more right it is.
What we need in here? More quantum. That's what we need.
That's what we need.
It's not working right. Did you give it more quantum?
Quantum baby, quantum.
Think about that.
That's our new,
Quantum baby, quantum. Love it.
All right.
That's got to be at least in the running for a title for today. And then finally, I am a real fan of Reddit, have been for years. It's in many ways, I feel like Reddit is one of the unsung heroes in social media, because I feel like it doesn't get talked about nearly as much as a lot of the other platforms. And yet there is actually a lot of value on the platform. And when you're talking about value for Reddit, there's many ways to think about that, but the data set that Reddit is proving to be very valuable for AI companies. Wall Street Journal says AI is now the source or a source of key revenue growth after it began charging for that access. And we definitely talked about that.
I think it's $86 million in the first 3 quarters of revenue for licensing. At the same time that Reddit is creating its own AI search engine, competing with those it's licensing too, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it's 19 years of community kind of, fed information.
Human conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And, you've got the news organizations on one hand that have been wrestling with being okay giving, or offering their own effort to the AI machine and everything that they've experienced. And then you've got Reddit really offering the work of its community to the machine, which is kind of a big deal. There's so much valuable information in there, and the sentiment of the people that are offering it. There's a rating system within Reddit that can tell you if people have voted this highly, then it must be either accurate or desired or approved of or whatever, and that can inform these AI models.
Right.
So yeah.
So who would have thought that Reddit would be a darling, so to speak, of AI companies? Yeah. But it's smart of them. I'm still waiting for a revolt from Redditors saying, "Where's our piece of free?"
Well, that is interesting, actually. Yeah, totally. Like that, Redditors aren't like, well, you can't. Like, I didn't put this onto Reddit so that you could just go and feed it into AI systems. You really haven't. I haven't heard any of that.
I'm old enough to remember that when, and I was one of these people when people contributed to Huffington Post. And I was one of them because I got more attention, I got more audience, I got more spotlight. People said, "Howard, how are you doing that? You're doing that for free. She's stealing your labor," and I didn't think so. But that argument was there, and I'm kind of surprised I haven't heard that louder with Reddit. People there not only create the content, they also create the norms and structures for moderation that lead to higher quality there than other social networks. So without the audience, they are truly nothing. Reddit doesn't add anything. The audience is everything. It enables them.
Totally.
But fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to start a revolt here.
No need to start a revolt. There's plenty of that going on already in this world. Anyways, we have reached the end of this episode of AI Inside, and it was a heck of a lot of fun. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you again for being flexible and moving a day. I really appreciate it. Easy peasy. So does my cold. Now that I'm feeling a little better. Jeff, what do you want to plug? I'm pretty sure I know what you would like to plug.
JustJeffJarvis.com. 3 books out now. When I was in San Francisco, I went to City Lights Books, and they had all 3. The only place that had all 3 of my current books out. So I autographed them all, and I quelled with happiness. So
that's awesome.
If you're in San Francisco, you can go and get one of them. And then they'll buy another one, which is what happens, which just makes me very happy.
That's amazing. Yeah, when you go into a bookstore and you find your books, I guess that's probably something that authors do, is pull it off and sign the inside. Might as well give.
It's rare. Unfortunately, it's rare. I went with a big publisher this time, and I think it's in 2 Barnes and Nobles in New Jersey. So that's book publishing these days.
Yeah. Well, it can be found in San Francisco at least, and occasionally you are touring to support it, the worldwide Jeff Jarvis tour. Excellent. Well, it was great to see you, and really great to get my book. I got my book signed too, by the way. Thank you for signing.
Thank you so much.
So, yeah. Everything you need to know about this show can be found at our website. That is aiinside.show. So if you go there, well, you'll find, actually, if you go there and go all the way down to the bottom, you'll find a photo from said book signing. There it is.
Ah, yes. Showing we're both tall.
That's right. We're both tall, and we've both existed in the same place at the same time, not entirely virtually before. So there you are. Go to AIinside.show. You can leave us feedback there. We're considering kind of reading some feedback on the shows from time to time. So if you want to, you can go there. I think contact at AIinside.show works as well. If you want to send us feedback or some information about something you messed around with featuring AI, whatever. Send us some feedback. We might play it. We might read it out on the show is what I'm saying. Do subscribe while you're there. Also go to patreon.com/AI Inside Show, and you can support us directly. We have a bunch of people who support us on a regular basis. They also get special perks, the show with no ads, Discord, Hangouts. You get an AI Inside t-shirt if you become an executive producer. And we have only a few executive producers, but we appreciate them nonetheless. Dr. Do, Jeffrey Maricini, WPVM 103.7 in Asheville, North Carolina, Paul Lang, and Ryan Newell. Thank you all so very much for continuing to stick by us, for continuing to support the show. We really couldn't do it without you. And I think that's about it. We'll see you next time on another episode of AI Inside. Actually, next episode is our last live episode. And then we've got 2 holiday episodes already in the can. So for Christmas and New Year's week. So those will be pre-recorded. But we have a pretty awesome guest at this point anyways, lined up for next week. I think you're going to like it. I'm not going to spoil it just in case things change. But look for that. Anyways, thank you again. And we'll see you next time on AI Inside. Bye, everybody.
Bye all.